My name is Mir. I live with my wife and young child in a mountain village in northern Pakistan, near the Afghan border. Summers in these high-altitude villages are always brief. For most of the year, we're cut off from the main roads and highways due to the heavy snow and ice. It takes a lot to get through the winters, requiring brute physical strength and nerves of steel to deal with the long periods of silence in the valleys and mountains, the never-ending bitter cold, sudden and devastating avalanches, and, of course, the constant threat of attacks from wild animals looking for food. But there's also plenty of time to sit by the fire in the evenings and listen to the icy winds whipping through the alpine firs. It's great if there's plenty of wood and dried yak dung to stay warm, not so much if you didn't plan and prepare in the brief summer weeks. Winter evenings are best spent listening to old-timers who entertain us with ancient legends and lores, tales about strange and mythical beings that live in and around the mountains. I can't say I was ever much of a believer until something happened to me 2 years ago on a cold winter's night, a night that I'll never forget. The air was very thin, and a frosty mist clung to the landscape, casting an otherworldly glow upon the snowy expanse. The moon was hiding behind some clouds, a mere sliver in the dark bluish sky, barely illuminating the path that led to our livestock. The ever-present giant mountains watched over the village, their towering shadows looked like sentinels. I was settled in for the night after a long, hard day's work of stacking wood and hay, taking care of the livestock, and making repairs to our stone cottage, the usual, repetitive chores for that time of the year. The yaks and goats had been corralled the last couple of days, due to a massive snowstorm that had finally passed a few hours earlier. The wind chill was what I can only describe as Arctic level. A gust of wind seemed to push the clouds away, revealing a full moon that illuminated the icy snow all around the stone cottage. My wife was fast asleep with our new baby when I thought I heard something outside. Suspecting a hungry snow leopard might be on the prowl for one of my goats, I forced myself to get outside in the bitter cold to try and scare it away. As I approached the corral, I could feel a strange sense of foreboding and unease in the pit of my stomach. The yaks, normally calm, seemed really restless, like something was off, because my yaks didn't get scared easily. Suspecting a snow leopard, known to prowl these high-altitude terrains, I tightened the grip on my shepherd's staff and pressed forward. In my hand, I gripped a burning torch. The staff and the fire torch were my only hope against a wild leopard that could shred me to bits if it wanted to. At first, there was no sound, except for the animals getting antsy. All I could hear was the wind and the crunch of the icy snow underfoot as I walked about near the corral, looking for signs of a wild animal. I swung my torch about, hoping to find some reason for the unrest. And that's when I noticed an unusual scent, like the stench of decay that clung to the air, a putrid odor, unlike anything I'd ever smelled before. The closer I got to the corral, the thicker the stench in the air, but it wasn't from the goats or yaks. As I rounded the final bend to the corral, there, in the shadows cast by the moon, stood a massive figure, maybe 14 feet high, standing on 2 legs, like a man-beast. He stood about 20 feet away, close to the tree line. I could see him, or it, clearly in the moonlight. The face was hairy, like an ape man, and its body was also covered in thick, long, ashy white fur. My heart nearly stopped when I encountered this frightening man-beast. Given its massive size, there was no way I could fight it off. I remember noticing its thick neck and a very muscular body under the piles of hair and fur. What stood before me was no ordinary creature. Surely it was Barmanu, the creature of mountain legends, the one I had heard the elders speak of my entire life. And here it was, right in front of me, a living embodiment of mountain mythology. Its eyes were like burning embers, reflecting an intelligence beyond comprehension, locked onto mine. It was as if the creature could read my thoughts, like it knew instinctively every move I'd make, even before I had the thought. I was paralyzed with fear, awestruck by its grotesque, yet majestic, massive form. It seemed to be studying me, sizing me up. In that brief moment, a primal connection formed, a silent communication between man and beast, an encounter that defied everything I had known up to that point. I stumbled backwards, and the shepherd's staff slipped from my grasp onto the snow. but I managed to hold onto the burning torch, silently praying that it would ward off the creature. The yaks and goats in the corral that had been bleating up to that point, sensing the close presence of an otherworldly intruder, suddenly went completely silent. It was as if all of us were under Barmanu's hypnotic trance. As it observed me, it emitted extremely powerful, rumbling, guttural sounds that almost shook the ground I stood on. The sound he made while breathing was about as powerful as 10 lions, growling ominously. And yet, he was just breathing. He didn't open his mouth or make any other sound. To think what a creature like Barmanu could do, if it chose to attack me in that instant, let's just say that I wouldn't have lived to tell the tale now. I don't know how long I stood there under his watchful gaze, but in reality, it was probably only a few seconds. Then, suddenly, with one giant step, it walked towards a tree and grabbed a fox that was foraging for food in the night. He put the screeching fox under his arm, turned around, and walked off into the darkness. I think I forgot to breathe in those few moments. The encounter, though brief, left an indelible mark on my soul. To think that I had actually encountered the Barmanu, a creature of folklore, in reality. As it vanished into the shadows, I gathered my composure, picked up my shepherd's staff and started walking back towards my stone cottage. I'll always be looking for him now, the enigma that lurks in the icy embrace of northern Pakistan's mountains. But I'm not the only one who's had a recent encounter. In the village of Burman lives Shabnam, the wife of a shepherd. She said she was outside one summer evening, collecting herbs and berries, which she intended to dry for the winter months ahead. She had ventured farther from home, farther than she normally does. She knew it was probably not a good idea, as locals tend to stay close to home when dusk is approaching. Her 10-year-old daughter, who accompanied her, was collecting apples and apricots from a nearby grove of trees, when suddenly, Shabnam heard her daughter scream. She ran towards the grove, frantically looking for her daughter, and that's when she saw what she can only describe as an otherworldly creature, something she had never seen before. She said she saw a very large beast that was also human-like. It was between 12 and 14 feet in height and had grayish, white fur all over its large muscular body. It stood on 2 feet like a human being, yet its face was a cross between an ape and a lion. It had 2 large curled horns on its head like an alpine goat, and deep-set eyes that looked like flames of fire. Shabnam was terrified, because she had never seen a creature that was a mix of human and animal forms. It defied logic. What was more terrifying is that the creature had captured her daughter, and was busy examining her hair and clothes. When it saw Shabnam, it attempted to walk off with the girl, but the daughter quickly grabbed onto a large tree branch, so as to escape the creature's grasp. Shabnam knew she was no match for the massive beast, but her mother's instinct kicked in, and she started yelling and cursing at the beast. She picked up pieces of wood and stones, and flung it at the giant. The creature growled. The force of his voice terrified her, but Shabnam was not going to give up so easily. The more the creature growled at her, the more Shabnam, driven by pure adrenaline, screamed at the beast, trying to distract him, so her daughter could get away. This went on for a few minutes, when suddenly, without any earthly explanation, the creature just vanished into thin air, right in front of their eyes. Shabnam and her daughter looked around, bewildered, unable to understand how it could just disappear, as if it got sucked into some kind of portal. They didn't wait around for it to come back, so they ran back towards their house, and did not look back to see if they were being followed. The encounter, though brief, haunts Shabnam and her daughter to this day. Village elders said they had heard their grandparents talk about similar experiences. According to local legends, Barmanu is known to kidnap human females as mating partners. It was a miracle that for whatever reason, on that particular day, this creature had sense enough to pursue other potential mates, rather than fight a feisty mother like Shabnam. No one knows the reason why the creature gave up so easily, considering it could have taken both mother and daughter captive. One theory is that Shabnam and her daughter owe their escape to a special mountain herb that Shabnam had been collecting that day. It has a particularly pungent scent, which legend says irritates Barmanu. Whatever the reason, Shabnam and the other females in the village now make it a point to wear the herb in their hair, and as garlands around their necks, whenever they go near trees, caves, and mountain springs. In the heart of Pakistan and Afghanistan's frozen landscape, where whispers in the mountains tell of terrifying encounters with the Barmanu. The quest for answers continues. As the sun rises and sets over the Hindu Kush and Karakoram ranges, the stories endure, passed from one generation to the next, as a testament to the enduring mystery that beckons those daring enough to seek the truth of the mythical creature known as Barmanu. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons, and turn on all notifications. Share this video with a friend, and drop a comment below to let us know if you enjoyed tonight's content. See you next time.